From the Fatheads Eyewear studio in Indianapolis, Indiana, this is The Skinny.
Maybe I need to start in the trash truck business.
Don't rule it out.
But the steering is spokes on the wheel straight ahead. The steering's broken. Bridges takes the wheel and he goes, whoa, whoa.
He's airborne, and then I'm above him.
Inverted.
All at the same time. Yeah, you're just like, wow, that's a wild picture.
He gets behind the race car and he tells me if I'm good or not, and if I'm good, he'll go, perfect.
I hang up on the guy. I go, who's this? This is Deion Sanders. I go, yeah, nice try. See you later.
Bounce and then this insane roll. That thing sent it.
I hate qualifying. It's the worst. It's literally the worst thing you could ever do.
But I'm smooth and creamy like milk chocolate. Have you ever not saw a Hershey bar that did not look good?
Hi, I'm Tony Stewart.
I'm Mario Andretti.
I'm Johnny Rutherford.
I'm Angel Sampe.
I'm Travis Pastrana.
This is Antron Brown.
Hi, I'm Barry Wanser, and this is The Skinny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the holding tank. Once again, from the Fatheads Eyewear studio, this is The Skinny. Looking forward to this one. This is a big show right here. We've got a big cat in the studio with us. I'm Ken Stout. The big man, as always, Rico Elmore. Behind the scenes over there running the controls, that is the track dude, Mr. Michael Young. And sitting inside the studio with us is Mr. Barry Wanser. Barry Wanser is the senior manager of racing operations for Chip Ganassi Racing, has been there for nearly 30 years. He's also a race strategist on the DHL number 10 car, driver Mr. Alex Palou, 2 championships underneath his belt in the IndyCar Series, and staring square at a third one if they can finish out the last 5 rounds here in a solid manner. You, my friend, are a very successful gentleman.
Well, I've been very fortunate to have to be able to work with some great people, so that certainly helps. And right now with the 10-car group, we're having a lot of fun for sure. And Alex is learning what it's like to work together with this team and what we can accomplish together. It's been fun so far.
Yeah, we were chatting a little bit before the show started, and me doing my homework on trying to get up to speed on you, learning more about Julian, who's also on the team, Julian Robinson, who's been with Chip Ganassi Racing since 1993.
Yeah, over 30 years.
And then Ricky Davis, who we're going to have on the show here as well. He might have been, he's probably been there even longer, huh?
No, I think he's about 28 years.
Is he? Okay.
Yep. He can correct me, but I think it's been about 28 years for Rick.
A powerhouse trio for sure.
Yeah, and for Ricky and I, and even Julian, when I started with the team in 97, Ricky, I was a gearbox mechanic for Zanardi's car. Ricky was a front-end mechanic on Zanardi's car, so that's how we became teammates. Julian Robertson at the time was Jimmy Vassar's race engineer, just coming off the championship in 96. So Ricky and I won championships together with Zanardi in 97, 98, and then Ricky moved on to become Jimmy's crew chief. I stayed with the 4-car. I won a championship with Montoya, and then was fortunate enough to win my first Indy 500 with the team with Montoya as well in 2000, and it was pretty awesome. Start to a great start to my early IndyCar career.
I think it speaks volumes about the Chip Ganassi Racing organization. We'll dig into this a little bit more in the second segment here, but I know Chip has said their speed and tenure, and when you look at you guys that have been there for over 25 years, I mean, and it's not just you three on the 10 car. There's a group of you guys that have been with that team for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of what we do. My role, Julian's role, even Ricky's role is everything we do is supporting the entire team to get to the racetrack. And then at the racetrack, that's when we're separated in the pit lane. And that's when we're doing the best for what we're doing in the pit lane for the car we're assigned to. I've been with the 10 car since 2004. Throughout my roles moving forward, I was Jeff Ward's crew chief. That was my first year as a crew chief in 2002 when we were learning the IndyCar series, when we were going to make the transition from kart over to IndyCar with Toyota in 2003. I started as Scott Dixon's crew chief in 2003. We won the opener at Homestead. And just prior to the Indy 500, our team manager, Simon Hodgson, hurt himself, broke his pelvis, and was out for the rest of the season. So Mike and Chip asked me to step up and temporarily take over the team manager role. Imagine just before Indy was a challenge. But it was fun because we won the championship that year. Ricky came on to take over for me as crew chief. And, win the championship. And I got to that was my last year doing pit stops. So I was a Jack Vent guy when I was in the center of the car. So got to do pit stops for the rest of the year. With the championship, it was awesome. And then I moved on to the 10 car timing stand with Chip. And then I was with Chip for many years, learning the ropes and learning how to be a strategist. And Chip and I won a lot of stuff together too, with some pretty amazing drivers.
We're going to take a quick break here. There's a lot more to this man's story other than IndyCar. We'll touch on it throughout the show here. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Stay with us.
Rule number 1 is don't hit your teammate. And rule number 2 is seeing rule number 1.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach. Innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to The Skinny. We're here in Indianapolis, Indiana. We have Mr. Barry Wanser, who is on the show with us here today. He is the senior manager for racing operations for Chip Ganassi Racing. Phenomenal guest to have on here. He's now in my world for once. I'm usually in his world. And when this guy is like E.F. Hutton, whenever only the older people will get it, whenever he speaks, people listen. So, but I've constantly maintained over the course of this show, telling stories from time to time, what it's like to be part of that organization. And there's nobody better for validation from that team than you to put into perspective better than I've been able to do it. But I constantly tell people, and my example is at the Indianapolis 500 and when we're in our meeting rooms, especially the day of, but during the test week, whenever it goes from engineer from each car to talk about the setup that they have on that car. And I constantly tell people it's a team effort. And when I tell you it's a team effort, if you say anything otherwise, like, I hope the 10 car does good today, to a Barry Wanser will say, as long as the team car is doing good, we're doing good.
That's right.
And you're one of those guys, but constantly doing the homework on you as I get ready for this show and some of the other players on that team, it is so solidified. And that's why this team has won 22 championships, 250 races. It's won 10 championships since 2008. But that's the reason, because you guys truly are working together as a team, everybody charging in one direction.
Absolutely. I mean, you couldn't have the success without sharing all of the information from all the cars. Chip has been an innovator in racing for many years as an owner and changing the team. And many years ago in the late 90s, we connected the trucks, where the trucks, you don't have to leave a truck to go into another truck. They're right connected through the doorways. And then with the one common engineering lounge. So even with our greatest challenge in IndyCar, running 5 drivers this year, something we've never done before, all 5 race engineers, all 5 drivers, all 5 assistant engineers, our performance engineers, Dario, everybody is all sitting in the same lounge at the racetrack, sharing information on the microphones, overhearing stuff. But everything is about improving the performance for all the drivers, for all the cars. It's not just sharing the setup information. It's sharing. It's being every driver is able to see all of the in-car video and all the driver compare stuff. And endless amounts of data.
I've had the pleasure of spotting for a number of different IndyCar teams. The biggest difference I felt between those teams and Ganassi is when you walk through the door, there's one goal, and that's to win. The first goal is to win. Obviously, he's going to take care of it as a business, but if we win, then the business becomes easier to run. And in every single meeting that we have before a race starts, there's 2 goals: to win the 500, to win the championship. It's set at every single meeting.
That's correct. I mean, that's our 2 IndyCar goals. Unfortunately, this year we didn't reach goal 1. So now 100% of the focus is on reaching goal 2, which is winning the championship. And that is whatever it takes. And how do you do it as a team with 5 drivers? there's never been any team orders. It's drivers. We want all of the drivers to do the best they can to win races. But if you're running up front, you're also separating the drivers that are racing us for that championship from our drivers who are actually in contention for the championship. So the higher the 5 cars can finish, the further away the points are for our competition.
Yeah, I mean, and I echo that. Chip's exact words were, I don't care which car wins on this team, just don't crash each other.
Correct. Right. That's rule number 1 is don't hit your teammate, and rule number 2 is seeing rule number 1. Basically Chips has asked the drivers to race your teammate like you want to be raced.
That's true.
Right. It doesn't always work exactly how you want it sometimes in some of the races based on some of the scenarios that happen, but certainly that's the general rule. Don't hit your teammate. So
I also notice in those meetings, you seem to be the keeper of the rule book. When everybody I know knows the rules, they have to be in that position, and if they don't, they won't be there for long. But I notice in those meetings, if there's a question, and Chip is not afraid to ask, if there's a question about a rule, you're the one he aims it at.
That's correct. I mean, it's something I've taken to heart from the very first year of becoming a team manager, is I absolutely understand the rule book and also the procedures. There's so many things we do with procedures for the IndyCar that aren't written down, but if they're not followed, you pay the price. So, Chip reminds us you've been part of some of our race meetings at Indy and stuff. We have those at every race. We talk about the characteristics of each racetrack before we actually turn a single lap. And then we go over all that again, the rules and procedures that are unique to that event, to that racetrack, again before the race. And we do that. For some, they might say, well, you've already gone over it. Why would you go over it again? What we do is a very repetitive business, but you have to get it right. And then a lot of what Chip reminds us is it's doing the obvious things right. What are the obvious things? You have to understand the procedures, whether it's something as simple as where the pit out commitment line is, to the blend line, to, where pit lane speed begins, where they're enforcing track limits, where they're not. If you don't know that, then you don't go over it, so you actually understand it, then it's easy to get bitten by it and suffer penalties. The following day, there was a sign on the gate that says, "Please do not feed the gate."
You're looking at Mr. Barry Wanser. He has 5 championships in the NTT IndyCar Series sitting on the stand, a couple of Indianapolis 500 wins as well. We've been talking to him as he's joined us here on the set of The Skinny. Couldn't be happier that he took a little bit of time out of his busy schedule to join us here in the studio. By the way, this is what happens. You talk about this stuff before the show starts, and you think you've already talked about it on the show, so you forget. But this used to be a Chip Ganassi building, and you worked here. You spent a number of years working in this building.
Yeah, when I started with the team in '97, this was our race shop. So we were here. They won the '96 championship with Wanser out of this building, and then we won the '97-'98 championship with Zanardi, as well as the moved championship with Montoya out of here. And I guess it's debatable. In the 2000 Indy 500 win, we moved out of the building during Indy and moved into the new building. So I guess it's a combination of this building and the new building.
There's probably some
won the
stuff
first
left here.
500. So, but yeah, it's I really haven't been in this building in 24 years, and it's pretty amazing to see it and come back. And I was telling Rico earlier that the original automatic gate is there, and we
Story.
when we'd come back from the races on red eyes and stuff, somebody would usually jump the fence to open up to get in the building, to open up the gate so everyone can drive out. And one year somebody jumped the gate, opened it up, and somebody decided to ride the gate. They kind of jumped on the gate and rode it and ran their fingers through the post,
rollers.
the rollers. So, typical racers. The following day, there was a sign on the gate that says, "Please do not feed the gate." But a lot of great memories.
It does.
A lot of great memories, and certainly wins out of this building.
So you're from the Northeast, and if you're from the Northeast, there's a pretty good chance you have something to do with modified somewhere along the way. But talk to us about how your career started, because it morphed into a couple of different directions, and you were with a couple of powerhouse teams, not in IndyCar and not in the dirt either. I don't want to give it away, but I want you to tell the story. But let's go back, man. How did all this stuff begin for you?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly caught some good breaks over the years. Yeah, I was 14 years old and freshman in high school. I played year-round sports. Um, Freshman football was the first tryouts of the year, and I'm a pretty small guy. Didn't make the football team, didn't make the basketball team, didn't make the baseball team. But couple doors down from where I grew up, my parents' house, were some guys that were several years older than me that were building from the ground up a dirt modified to race at Orange County Fair Speedway. Driver was Chuck McKee, and he has a son who races there now. And worked with them for many years, raced on the East Coast. Again, Orange County Fair Speedway in New York was always my home track. We raced in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Did some stuff over the years down in Volusia County for winter series and stuff. But yeah, it was fun doing that and growing up there on that. And once I graduated high school, I went into college for electrical engineering. And after my first year, I dropped out to work full time in racing, working for a gentleman from New Jersey who now had hired Chuck McKee to be the driver, and I was the sole employee to prepare and service a dirt modified out of Hackensack, New Jersey. His name was Kevin Cross, and did that for a few years, and then from there I met some other people, and I moved into drag racing. In my first year in drag racing, I moved to a suburb of Boston. I worked for the Boston Strangler Top Alcohol Funny Car.
Arnie Carp.
Yep, Arnie Carp and Keith Hughes, and that was a lot of fun. It was really my first full-time true professional racing. So it was an eye-opener, and from there I moved on to a smaller drag racing team, but in Top Fuel in South Jersey. An old driver named Hank Endries worked for them. And then from there, I went to work for Amato. A good friend of mine, Tommy Vassie, who him and I became friends in drag racing, and in dirt car racing. Was already in drag racing and moved on to Amato, and got me an interview there, and fortunate enough to win my first championship in 1991 on Top Fuel with Joe Amato. It was pretty amazing. We won 4 races that year in the championship.
Did you say it was 5 years?
Yeah, it was about 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd always felt growing up doing dirt track racing, dirt modifieds, that I always wanted to get into NASCAR. No doors ever opened me for NASCAR. So the first doors that opened up were drag racing. And I got to say, I honed and perfected my mechanical skills in drag racing. It's the ultimate mechanic sport. And again, I worked for some amazing people in drag racing, Rob Flynn, and then Tim Richards, yeah. Jim Walsh, those guys, at Amato. And that allowed me to carry on with a racing career in IndyCar. Yeah. So in 2000, when we won, our first Indy 500 team, Indy 500 would have won. At that time, that's when Chip had bought into the NASCAR team with Felix Sabates. And at the time, Chip brought in Andy Graves. He was going to run the team. So he was with us in Indy for the Indy 500 win, and as part of that program, which was awesome. And Andy and I became friends, and he was heavily recruiting me to go down to the NASCAR team. So I can't say I didn't look at it, because it was a dream I had to go, to NASCAR. And we talked about it quite a bit, but it was something I felt like I had too much going on, too much that was really good here in Indy, here with Chip Ganassi Racing. And, I stayed in IndyCar, and it's paid dividends. So. Foundation to move around,
lifting those heads off of the headers. That's not light work.
Yeah,
either.
That's not too bad though. You're not going far.
Welcome back to the Fatheads Eyewear Studio. This is the Skinny. We're here in Indianapolis, Indiana. We have Mr. Barry Wanser on the show with us. He is the Senior Manager of Racing Operations for Chip Ganassi Racing, has been with the organization for 27 years, I believe it is at this point. Great to have him in the studio with us. We just went back in time a little bit and found out how he got started in the business while we were at commercial break. Of course, the Northeast, Englishtown, is where I got my start in this end of the business as well. So whenever you mentioned the Boston Strangler, of course, and Tharp, those guys, they were banging heads with Manzo, in the Northeast, and Frank Teagues, and you mentioned Bob Newberry.
Yeah.
I haven't heard Bob's name in a long time, but yeah, those were the players, man, in Top Alcohol Funny Car.
Yeah, I mean, I was only in the Top Alcohol Funny Car for about a year and a half before I moved on to Top Fuel and did like a partial schedule, IHRA and NHRA stuff. But yeah, it's I mean, NHRA it survives on the sportsman racers, right? I mean, it's thousands and thousands of sportsman racers that support the local tracks, and certainly it makes the national events so popular and so big because of how many cars show up.
And for the fans out there that might not be familiar with Joe Amato at this point, it has been a little while now. I think Joe is about 80 years old, if I'm not mistaken. But at the time when you went there with him, he was the winningest guy of all time. I think he had ended up with 5 championships, 52 wins. I mean, Keystone Automotive Warehouse. I mean, he was the pinnacle of Top Fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it was a huge privilege to be able to work at that level of team, right? I mean, it's, again, like I said before, that's where I honed my skills, and to work under a guy like Tim Richards at that level, that's where I learned to work under pressure and just do the job right.
What did you start out doing? What was your first job?
Just cleaning manifolds.
Where did you end up?
Doing some cylinder heads. So, when
ever a clutch guy with the gloves on?
No, never had to do the clutches. Done some bottom end, but it's harder for me. Being a small guy, it's hard to have any foundation to move around.
Lifting those heads off of the headers, that's not light work.
Yeah,
either.
That's not too bad though. You're not going far.
So when you're trying to torque a cap, it's not quite working that great.
It's like when you're working for the smaller teams, you do a lot more, and that's where you're learning a lot of stuff. And like I said, working under Rob Flynn at the JB Racing Top Fuel team and stuff, learning a lot from him. You do more because there's less people. And when I got to Amato, it's like everyone had their place, and I was the new guy, so it's like I had to earn their trust, and that's something still applies today in all of racing for a lot of new people, regardless of your experience. You got to earn trust, and once you get that trust, then it's amazing what you can accomplish as a group.
Want to get the skinny on other guests in different types of motorsports? Check out our YouTube page and get the skinny. The Skinny is brought to you by American Coach. American Coach. Innovation is our life force. And Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear. Hardcore since '04.
Great to have Mr. Barry Wanser on the show with us here today of Chip Ganassi Racing. Nice to have him with us. You guys were in line to win the championship with the 10 car at the end of 2023, and unfortunately you were not able to make the last couple of races. I found it somewhat ironic. Of course, you had cancer. I don't know what kind it was, but I believe it was in the neck or the throat area. And of course, at the same time this was going on, our good friend Kyle LeDuc was also, had been battling as well. So, man, walk us through it real quick for the fans at home. You were not on the stand the last couple of races. You guys did secure that championship, I believe. Was it Mike O'Gara that stepped in?
Mike O'Gara stepped in. Yep. It's a great thing about Chip Ganassi Racing is we have a lot of depth. So that was good for me to be able to step away. And basically just prior to the national race, I was having some swallowing issues. Had a couple tests done, scanned done, and there was a tumor on the back of my tongue down in my throat. So turned out to be squamous cell carcinoma. I had 2 surgeries, robotic surgery to remove the tumor, then a couple surgeries on my neck to remove some lymph nodes. And they were able to move up the surgeries to get them done August 30th. So I'm coming up on a year now. But with that, yeah, I had to miss the last 2 races, but certainly I needed to get that taken care of. And I was fortunate that I had a cancer, and where it was located, I was able to choose surgery to remove the cancer rather than leave it in and try to kill it. So I know not everybody gets that opportunity.
Right.
I did, so the sooner we can get it out, the better. Everything went well, and had some additional radiation treatments and did my recovery, and it was good to be back this year. So, but it was a challenging recovery, but it's part of life. Is sometimes you have greater challenges than what you would like to have. So.
Going down that road, this next question will be a little bit tougher, but I'm going to bring it up because I think there's plenty of people at home that draw inspiration from people like you that have been through the process, and they're able to learn, and they're at a time in their life where any morsel of information can help them out. I've been through it. He's been through it. I went through it with my daughter, who had cancer at the age of 8 months, bilateral Wilms tumor, 40% chance of long-term survival. His daughter, at a much older age, went through it, and years of complications with blood transfusions. And I mean, cancer is a devastating disease, but we're both fortunate enough to have our children here. You unfortunately lost yours.
Yeah.
Is this something you can talk about, or too difficult?
It depends on the moment and depends on the day. 2010, our son Michael was diagnosed with leukemia, and not the good leukemia, AML leukemia, very, very tough leukemia to beat. We were fortunate to have some incredible hospitals here in Indy. Peyton Manning, St. Vincent's Children's Hospital, where he did all of his chemotherapy, got him in remission. He was, at that point, we transferred down to IU Riley Children's Hospital for a bone marrow transplant. Our other son, Robert, was 4 at the time. He was his bone marrow donor. Pretty much the transplant was a success. Michael's body started to develop basically Robert's 100% blood DNA, develop a new system through stem cells. But unfortunately, Michael's cancer was pretty aggressive. It likes to hide in the spinal column, and his cancer came back. So at that point, our only option was an experimental treatment at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. So, unfortunately, we lost Michael. So,
yeah.
I in 2000, I'm trying to think here, 2019, 2018. So my daughter has our first grandchild, and that was when the cells mutated in her. And after she had our grandchild, she started having complications, and they just couldn't get it figured out.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at St. Vincent's, which I think was a different place when you guys were there than it is today, or when we were there. And we ended up, Chuck Pagano got us down to IU, down to Riley's. And and I never forget walking in and her telling me that's, that she had cancer.
Yeah.
And I've lived here all my life, and I literally drove from our offices that used to be on High School Road, to St. Vincent's on the north side, and got lost. And I mean, it's what people can't understand. We went through the same thing, the bone marrow transplant. We're fortunate to have her, and she's still with us. She's fighting what is called host versus donor.
Yep.
And so, it was interesting. It's called Be the Match for everybody at home. And what Be the Match is being the match to somebody that needs your bone marrow. A sibling is a quarter, a parent is a half, and they have got a network set up now where they can almost type in exactly what the DNA sequencing is that they want, that they need. I mean, it's making leaps and bounds every day. And she did it, but like 95% of, for, layman's terms, 95% of it took, 5% of it did not. So that's what's fighting within her, and it still is going on today. And that was in 2020 when she got it.
Yeah. And like you said, you brought it Be the Match. I mean, my wife, Lori, and I are both,
Yeah.
part of Be the Match. And
we're too old for it.
I mean, obviously, they prefer younger stem cells, but we certainly know that there's some rare occasions where even we could be,
you need to be the
donors that
yeah.
could actually help save a life.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
we had a donor lined up for a second stem cell transplant, bone marrow transplant with Michael if we ever got him back in remission. But we were thankful that there was someone in line there.
Yeah.
It was about 6 years ago. The Be the Match contacted me, and I was a match for somebody, and I had to do some more follow-up, more intensive blood follow-up for them as a potential donor. It never came to fruition. I always hoped that they had somebody younger and there was a success there. So, but
yours is pretty strong, though. You went through a lot, so maybe they needed you.
I guess.
So. I know it's a tough subject. I thank you very much for talking about it. I do believe there's people at home that are going through it right now, and they can draw some inspiration. They can draw some support from people that have been through it. So thanks for talking.
Thanks. And one of the things my wife and our son Robert, who's 17 now, were able to do is we're able to Peyton Manning approves some of the hospital rooms being redone, renovated. And he gave us approval to do a room in memory of Michael. And it basically showcases all of Indianapolis sports and the sports teams and mascots. And it's pretty amazing. It has built-in gaming. There's a lot of things that we brought into the room in our 11 months of battle that they're now in that room for patients. There's a lot of treatments that children go through where they're lying completely on their back. There's a monitor in the ceiling that either a parent, depending on the age of the child, either a parent can program something or put a movie up there or gaming, or the child can if they're old enough to be technologically advanced, to be able to understand the gaming and all that stuff. So, there's a unique couch bed in there with its own monitor for the parents because parents have to do their stuff as well. But we just tried to come up with a concept and appearance of the room so that the parent or caregiver and the child and a lot of times the siblings are there visiting so much that they're not in the hospital when they walk in that room. And we certainly achieved that goal. So that's awesome. We've had some amazing feedback. So.
Yeah, and I meant to bring that up. My apologies. I did read where you guys were very instrumental in that. And Peyton Manning, obviously, boy, what a godsend that guy is with that children's hospital. But Scott Dixon was involved. Chip, obviously, heavily involved.
Yep. Dario was heavily involved.
Graham Ray Hall.
And his foundation, absolutely.
Super.
And hundreds and hundreds of fans. Like there was, we had to raise $100,000 to be able to do it, and I think we raised close to $130,000. And there's still donations coming in because the room's going to need tune-ups and stuff like that. So there's still money there to be able to keep it going. And we've met. Just even in racing, we've met families that find themselves happen to be in the hospital at Peyton Manning Children's Hospital and ended up in that room. So when they walk in and
awesome stuff. All right, thank you for that.
Can fail, and unfortunately, we were the first victim.
Great to have Mr. Barry Wanser on the show with us here today, the senior manager for racing operations for Chip Ganassi Racing, as we've documented here, and spent his entire adult life pretty much in the racing industry in one form or another. So it's great to hear some of those stories to see how they make it to the pinnacle that they made it. But you've got to be good at what you do, or you certainly don't stick around in this position, certainly not in this organization. So great to have him with us. 2024 is looking great, staring at a third championship, currently have that points lead. Will Power right behind him. Some guy named Scott Dixon right behind him. Had it not, a tough mid-Ohio for Scott Dixon. It not been for that one. Yeah, he's right there in the hunt.
Right, could be second in the points. You know, I mean, obviously he's had great races, winning many races in Mid Ohio. But yeah, unfortunately, you know, with the new hybrid system, it's pretty awesome for the series. But we were the first victim of
First guinea pig.
a technical issue, unfortunately, that took
man.
Scott out.
Battery, is that what it was, or what? I
it just-
remember him pulling off, right?
He
Yeah,
didn't
it just
get the green flag. It was
no,
a pace lap.
it was on the out lap of the first parade lap. Just lost voltage. But you know, there was certainly a whole lot of testing that's been done that we were involved in as well, developing the hybrid system for IndyCar, and you know, you see we're successfully racing it. But it's like anything else. You know, we used to get new cars and new engines every year. You know, we still have engine failures, and we have now hybrid failures. So it's just something that's part of what you're dealing with. You hope you know you don't become a victim of it, but you know, it's a mechanical system that, you know, propels the car that can fail, and unfortunately, we were the first victim. So
Yeah, the racing industry has always been a development platform for everything that we're using. So, and that's where the failures show up. You know, like you say, you hope it happens on a test day or in a practice session, but
correct.
not the outlap of a race. But it's kind of what the marching orders have been for this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the technology, the advancement, you know, happens every year, not just for adding new systems like the hybrid system, but the engine manufacturers are continuously getting more and more power out of the engines. You know, the engines this architecture of engine has been part of IndyCar since 2012, and you know, with a small V6 engine producing a lot of horsepower, and it's amazing over the years where. You know, through direct injection and a lot of the technology that's available to the manufacturers, as they produce more power, they also produce more fuel savings. It's amazing how efficient the engines run, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking for in the passenger cars, right? You're looking for smaller engines to burn less fuel, to still be able to move the car, to power the car, but also burn less fuel. And you know, that's a lot of that happens in racing.
Michael, I want to bring you in here, man. You've been in IndyCar for a long, long time. You know this guy pretty well. Pretty good buds here. What do you got for us?
It was an interesting question, and Barry and I talked at the airport after Laguna Seca, and after the whole push to pass gate and all that happened preseason with Penske Racing, we got to Laguna Seca, and there was a caution that came out. But what had happened was Marcus Armstrong, I believe, spun in turns 4 and 5 or right there. Caution doesn't come out. He's sitting on the track. There's no caution, and everybody's thinking, well, why is there no caution? Well, lo and behold, Joseph Newgarden is in, and after Joseph goes ahead and pits, then the caution comes out, and everybody's like, well, that seemed ridiculous. And there were a lot of fans that said there's Penske favoritism, but Barry, as he can do, so aptly said, well, in the rules, Barry, take it away.
Well, you know, a lot of people ask me this question, and the way Kyle Novak officiates the races is certainly, as long as there hasn't been any major contact, if there's a car offline in what he deems as a safe location, and in this case where Marcus Armstrong was, then they leave the pits open, giving everybody on track an opportunity to pit. You know, at that time, the majority of the cars have already made their last pit stop, but Joseph was running a different strategy, and he was still on track, and he was one of the last cars to enter the pits. And when that happened, that's when they threw the yellow. You know, at that point, we're still racing to the blend line, but it was certainly an advantageous situation for Joseph. But it is how the races are consistently officiated on the road courses and street courses. Certainly the road courses where there's more opportunity to have a car offline, but they know they have to get to, that they don't immediately throw the yellow. And it's consistent. Proper oval and flat corners and varying levels of grip with patches of asphalt and old school. Correct.
The Skinny is brought to you by Fatheads Eyewear. Fatheads Eyewear, hardcore since '04. And American Coach, innovation is our life force.
Welcome back to the Skinny. We have Barry Wanser on the show with us here. A ton of insight. What a brilliant mind to have working at the Chip Ganassi Racing organization, and he has certainly proven to be worth his weight in gold. First of all, thanks for taking the time to come in here to the studio with us. Let's talk about the end of this season. 12 starts, by the way, so far this year. 2 points wins. Of those 12 starts, 10 finishes inside of the top 5. We don't want to discard the first win of the season as well. That was at the Million. Wasn't for points, but it's still a win against the rest of IndyCar field. So obviously you guys are doing a great job of the DHL number 10 car, looking at this championship. 5 more races to go, a bunch of ovals, but the Spaniard has proven to be good no matter where you guys go.
Sure. I mean, it's first, thanks again for having me on. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. And we've been talking about it for a few years now, so it's fun to make it actually happen. So, yeah, we're focused on taking it race by race. Certainly, with the remaining ovals, you know, Alex has shown he's running up front in the ovals. We know he's capable of getting that first win. I know he really wants to get that first win. It'd be great to get that for this championship run. It would certainly help with the points. You know, we expect to be competitive at Gateway. You know, we're going back to Milwaukee for the first time since 2015, I think it is. And, you know, Milwaukee's a unique flat, true 1 mile oval that's flat. We did have a team test there several weeks ago. So his first time there, and he absolutely loved it. And I could tell you from my experience, drivers either love Milwaukee or hate Milwaukee. And, you know, he loved it. So had some good full tank runs there.
Great racing. You excited to go back there?
Absolutely. We've won. The team's won there before at Milwaukee. It's a challenging racetrack. It's there at the Milwaukee Fairgrounds, and it's great racing. It's proper IndyCar short oval. You know, it's different from when you look at Iowa's 7/8 mile high banked to Gateway. That's I think 1.25, something like that. But it's like a paperclip, right? Tight corners, long straightaways. This one's a true, proper oval and flat corners and varying levels of grip with patches of asphalt and
old
school. Correct. Like it's the surface that's been around for a long time with a bunch of patches, and that's what gives it its characteristic.
I love spotting at those ovals. I had the pleasure of spotting for Pelot at St. Louis a couple of years ago. I got in trouble because I wasn't in the meeting. He promptly texted me at the start of the first practice session, "Where have you been? Where were you?" But my protocol on the other car was a little bit different than it was on the 10 car, so I learned my lesson quickly. We all get together and we talk before we start racing. That's
correct.
That's his way. So. And I was at all the next ones as he wished. But I love doing that race, and you could see all the way around there. But the cars are going so fast; decisions have to be made so quickly. Man, it's just so exciting watching those things and being part of it.
And 1 and 2 is way different than 3 and 4.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Way different.
Way different. Different levels of grip and the patches. Again, like it's a challenging oval. But
we love Alex.
It's fun.
We love Alex. We had him on the show before he ever won anything. And I don't even know if you know this, but I don't know if anybody knew this before. When we had him on the show, he never won a championship before that IndyCar championship of any sort.
You know, Alex is just getting better every day.
Yeah.
Every time he's in the car, he's getting better and smarter.
He could be a future Dixon. I mean, he certainly has the talent, and with that trio you guys have and that support you guys have, and I mean, he blew through that controversy. I don't think I ever saw the guy who didn't have a smile on his face. He didn't let it affect his driving, that I could tell anyways.
Nope.
And went on to win a championship. I mean, it was just
true
amazing.
Professional. You know, obviously under pressure, it's nothing to him. You know, he doesn't get upset in the car. You know, doesn't yell in the car. You know, I've had drivers, Dario would get upset from time to time. Dan Weldon would get upset from time to time. Tony Kanaan would get upset from time to time. I was the one that always maintained my cool. But, you know, it's Alex is calm. You know, he's very focused. He likes to be reminded of what's going on. You know, we give him a lot of information, remind him of what's going on, how many laps, you know, on the tires. He's always thinking, you know, letting me know what other strategies are happening so can paint that picture for him so he understands what's going on in the race. But yeah, he's a true talent when we're having a lot of fun. It's always fun winning, but we're also having a lot of fun in between those wins. So it's
great stuff.
It makes going to the racetrack a lot of fun, and that's half the battle.
Maybe we could get him on and talk about these things.
Yeah, maybe. Do you know Alex? Do you ever chat with him? You think we can get this champ back in here?
Every now and then we talk, yeah.
Colin, You gonna help me get the champ in here? Okay, all right.
It's recorded. I think
It's,
I said
yeah,
it's a
it's
done deal.
recorded. Yeah.
Well, once you tell him that, I've done it now, and then you have Ricky do it, then he's going to have to be obligated to do it.
Yeah, there you go.
And he'll be an incredible guest.
Once again, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. Best of luck going forward and the chase for the championship here in 24.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate being here. And
The Skinny on Mr. Barry Wanser. Hope you enjoyed that one. It's a good show.